Hi guys, this is Danny Flexen with a quick review of the Matchroom show from tonight, headlined by Conor Benn pounding out a clear, unanimous decision over Sebastian Formella in what was Benn's best performance of his professional career. Um, it's really weird. It seems like he's gone low key after that much or very memorable win in inverted commas over Cedric Peno in their first fight, for which he got a lot of criticism, some of which wasn't his fault, particularly the judges' scorecards. And since then, he's improved massively. And it's not been done, although it seems that way, it's not been done on a low key basis because it's been on huge shows. This was his first night as a headliner. And let's not forget that only happened because the Dillian Whyte Alexander Povetkin rematch was postponed when Povetkin got COVID. And Benn was already on the undercard against Formella. That was elevated to the main event as the show was downgraded from Sky Sports box office to a regular Saturday night fight night on Sky. But he's still been on huge shows, albeit on the undercards. So we've watched his progress, but maybe haven't completely taken it in and absorbed it because he's just looked a different fighter in his last three fights, particularly against Formella, because the others ended early. Perhaps we didn't get enough chance to see the improvements he's made. Against Formella, a lot of things stood out. I mean, his head movement was excellent. His poise, his ring IQ, knowing when to push, when to back off, that was really good. His jab, which the Sky commentators mentioned a number of times, he used it as a rangefinder. He used it as a weapon in its own right. He used it to set up combinations. One particular combination which I really liked was the right hand over the top, dip to the left, left hook to the body, and then finish on the jab as the opponent's elbows were lower. Just a really stiff jab to end the combination as Benn then moved out of range. Thought that was incredibly good. And just a real complete performance. He got a bit ragged in the second half of the fight when he decided to engage a bit more, press perhaps for the stoppage. Got tagged a few times, particularly by left hook counters. And Formella was very durable, very brave, dogged, hung in there despite getting marked up, despite getting kind of bullied. And not bullied in the sense that Benn's a muscular guy, but he wasn't wrestling him around and pushing him back in that way. But he put a lot of intelligent pressure on with his feet, which is yet another example of his continued improvement. But Formella was fresh from going 12 rounds with Sean Porter in August, although fresh might not be the right word considering he was beaten up for 12 rounds, didn't win a round. But it was a different type of drubbing, if you like. Benn's was more clinical, more measured, whereas Porter was just, typically relentless and is a world-class fighter, and there's no shame in that. But there's no shame in losing to Conor Benn tonight either in the form he was in. And now we wait to see what's next for him. He's talked about wanting that British title, but I think Chris Jenkins has now got, the champion has now got a mandatory defence lined up, so I don't think that'll be next for Conor Benn. I wouldn't like to see him go straight in for the European against the winner of Josh Kelly and David Avanesian. I think he needs a couple more fights before that level. But for someone who's only had 20 amateur fights, of which he lost 2, I think, started off quite late in terms of taking boxing seriously, had a lot of criticism early in his career, a lot of it because of who his father is. Nigel Benn, obviously legend of the sport. He's now starting to be respected in his own right for what he's accomplished and the sacrifices he's made to learn and to develop under Tony Sims in that great gym. Tony Sims deserves a lot of credit as well. He's an excellent trainer and he's brought Conor on leaps and bounds, but Conor's the one who has to execute what Sims teaches him and has to have the requisite dedication to get in the gym every day, do his runs, and not just that, but to learn, to be willing to learn, to be coachable, I guess is a phrase probably overused, but I'm just adding to that now. But yeah, was really impressed with Conor Benn tonight. Undercard was good in places as well. I thought Liam Davis was very, very good in beating Sean Cairns for the vacant English bantamweight title. Did really well in that one. Fabio Wardley, perhaps the most kind of explosive finish of the night with a very quick left hook, right hook combination, taking out Richard Lartey. I think that's the earliest Lartey's ever been stopped. That was the second round. He went into the fourth with Daniel Dubois. Obviously took Nathan Gorman a distance quite recently. So Wardley showed, even though he's not the biggest heavyweight, he's got some pop in his punches. And it was a very well-placed right hook as well. It looked to catch Lartey on the temple just above the ear. So very well-placed shot. Worrying moments afterwards, Lartey was given oxygen and then helped onto his stall. Still looked dazed some time after the knockout. but thankfully left eventually under his own steam, and just an eye-catching performance and result for Wardley there. He'll be in the shake-up for the British title if and when the winner of next week's Daniel Dubois Joe Joyce showdown relinquishes it, which presumably they will not too long after. Who he fights for that, we shall wait and see, especially now Dave Allen's retired, because he would have been in the shake-up for that belt as well. Other big heavyweight fight on the show saw Alan Babic, still yet to be extended beyond round 3 as a pro, moved to 6-0 with 6 inside schedule victories. Beat Tom Little. Little looked like he was going to make a really good fight of it in the first round. You know, he was bobbing and weaving, landing some nice counters, stiff jab, catching Babic on the way in, and kind of round 2, start of round 3, it looked like Babic was maybe just starting to run out of ideas, if not run out of steam. You know, I think he's definitely got the stamina to keep throwing punches for more than 3 rounds, whether it's more than 6. No one's been tough enough to tell us just yet. And that's not a knock on Tom Little. You know, he got himself into the lightest weight of his pro career for this fight, but he just couldn't stick with the pace that Babic was pressing onto him. Big hooks. He's got quite fast hands, Babic, as well. It's something that doesn't really get talked about much, but got quite fast hands. He throws them in combination. He's just bludgeoning. He might not be a huge single shot puncher, but every shot's hard, and there's a lot of shots. You know, so it can't be a pleasant experience getting in the ring with him. And Eddie Hearn said on Sky after the fight they're looking to step him up in the next one. So we shall see what happens with that. So that was good. Who else did we see? Oh, Jez Smith scored. I don't even want to call it an upset because most people in the trade were picking him to beat 3-0 Ben Ridings. Jez Smith isn't unbeaten, but had a lot more experience than Ben Ridings and showed that he was the classier, more versatile performer in their 6-rounder. I wasn't sure he deserved every round. I had him a clear winner, but I think the referee gave him every round, so he won 60-54 over 6 rounds. He called out Ted Cheeseman afterwards. I don't see that happening next. I think, you know, Cheeseman's at a certain level now. He's got nothing to gain from fighting a Jez Smith. But Smith certainly looks like a rejuvenated fighter back on the way up. So fair play to him because that was a good win. And yeah, but to leave you on the kind of most memorable part of the night was Conor Benn's performance. And there might be people out there who are disappointed he didn't get the stoppage, especially as it was quite one-sided. But it was his toughest opponent on paper to date, and he produced his best performance to date. You can't really ask for much more than that. And I'm sure his team, his corner, will be delighted with what he brought. And he looks very much a still improving fighter at the age of 24. I think we sometimes forget, maybe not how inexperienced he is because the commentators mention that quite a lot, but just how young he is as well. His best days are very much still in front of him. So we'll look forward to seeing how his journey develops. And I'd like to see what your views were on the show. Let me know in the comments below. Performance of the night, what you were impressed with, what weren't you so impressed with, and what's next for the winners on the show. I'll be back on Monday for reflections. Not sure exactly what I'll talk about, considering I've just gone into detail on the show that normally I would cover on Monday, but we'll work it out before then. Really appreciate your time, as always, and I'll see you all soon. Cheers.